Hello, you beautiful beings. Thank you for being here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Randy Morgan. This is just an explorative space to integrate our soul, heal our emotions, look at pain as a teacher, and just really be receptive and open to whatever life is offering us, but through a lens of grace, through a lens of love, through a lens of ease, because it doesn't have to be hard. I don't know what we're going to talk about today, but that felt like a nugget. Doesn't have to be hard. One of the ways in which I've been learning how to navigate life is with ease, or with more ease, I should say, and naturally, I wouldn't say I was taught how to navigate life with much ease. I think I grew up in a society like many of us did, where your entire from the beginning of school to university is set up to the race, run the race of life. And I'm here to explore the journey of living it without racing, living the journey with more ease, living the journey with more grace, um, and attracting rather than chasing. And so that feels like our topic of today. Mm. Welcome. Welcome, 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 or welcome back. I create these videos with the intention that it will help someone in some way, shape, or form, wherever you're at in this journey of life, whether you're dealing with some emotional challenges, physical challenges, or just no challenges, um, or all of the above challenges. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing and it became very distracting as soon as it started ringing. I'm like, oh, who could it be? I'm gonna let it go because I don't even know where it is. I just know it's plugged into my speakers. Where were we? So, how do we navigate life with more ease? How do we recognize that the life that we're navigating can be more easeful, more graceful, more just easy, you know? And as you can see, I'm going on an inner contemplative journey as I ask these questions, not just to you, but to myself as well. And just, mm, it feels good in my body to even invite in these thoughts. It feels good to contemplate that being possible. I find so many areas in which I believe that it has to be hard or it has to be this one way. And I also witness it in many people that I love and care for, where it's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. And before you say that, I want to remind you that it's 2025. And it's just the way it is not the way it is anymore, depending on what we're speaking about. But we're in a new era. We are evolving to new levels of consciousness as human beings and as all living beings on earth, as well as even our technology is evolving to new levels of consciousness, we could say, with all of the AI going on. And so, we live in a very different world than the world where our parents grew up in, or things are very different and also ever evolving and changing. And so that's just the way it is. That's just the way it has to be. Does not ring true for me. And I want to ask you wholeheartedly, is it just the way it is? Does that ring as truth for you? Does it? It feels like a joke to me. I'm like, ha! We live in such a world of diverse contrasts. Does that make sense saying that? Do you know what I mean? Um, and we we cannot be stuck with that's just the way it is because we have so much knowledge available to us and as an example, go to university, get the degree, then get the job. That's just the way it is. That's the way that one route is for sure. But like myself, you can get some certificates and keep on learning and keep on growing and keep on expanding your knowledge and your value and what you want to bring into the world, regardless of what institution gave you this certificate. And I get to some extent, like these things are good and necessary. But they shouldn't be limiting. They shouldn't be things that keep us from living the life or the dream or the career or the business or the adventure that we want to live. And I suppose this feels very relevant to where I'm at because I had these thoughts of going back to school this morning and I was kind of exploring doing osteopathic medicines. I don't know if you'd call it that, but basically like what it would take to become an osteopath and simply because I love all modalities that have to do with how the body heals itself. And if you don't know what an osteopath is, that is what they do. They make very subtle adjustments in the body so that it can then heal itself. And so I looked this up and then it led to like what you need in order to get your osteopathic certificate. You also need one of the following. Um, and so one of those following that I read into was Chinese medicine. And so then I was looking into that and I'm like, well, how long would it take me to get that? And how much would that cost? And blah, blah, blah. And so I was just exploring. And then I just felt, it was like I missed registration. And I was like, ah, darn it. And I was like, shoot, if I had thought about this earlier, I would really be into it. And I just witnessed myself saying that. I'm like, oh, just because you can't register for this course or you can't go to the university or it's inaccessible to you where you are, doesn't mean you shouldn't follow the inspiration to learn about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I genuinely want to learn about the medicine. And it was like as if I couldn't also be getting that certificate. It wasn't worth my time. It wasn't, and then I just kind of cut it off there. I was like, ah, whatever. But I noticed how maybe I wasn't exploring it. The exploration doesn't need to be to get to the outcome. It doesn't need to get that thing or make that amount of money or create that business or be a super certified boss ass mother effer, which I also want to be, but I can still, had to have this conversation with myself and say you can still learn about holistic Chinese medicines and like eventually get certified and you can even start studying and then, if it comes up that it's in alignment to take the program or the course or go to the school, then you can do that and then I've already got, the learning. But the whole moral of the story is that I wanted to learn about something. I wanted to gain more knowledge in an area, but because it had like a deadline and restriction and XYZ elemental P, I was like, it's not for me because it has all these limitations that that don't align with where I'm at. You know, it doesn't align for me to go to a school that's across the country, um, or something along these lines. And so I bring this into the space because I recognized how I was just limited by it. I was like, oh, that's just the way it is. And we don't have to be limited by that. Like if something calls to you, if something feels compelling, explore it. Don't let this limitation of the PhD or this LMNOP certificate or registration stop you from what inspires you or what calls to you or what direction that you want to go in. It's so beautiful to follow those little cookie crumbs. And sometimes, and by cookie crumbs, I mean those little inspirations, those little things that just like, that sounds nice, and that sounds nice, and that kind of lights me up. And then you just follow those, and it creates such an abundant path. And to bring even an example into perspective, I started tattooing during the middle of COVID because I couldn't get tattoos and I just wanted tattoos. So I learned how to tattoo myself. And then from there, friends of mine wanted tattoos. And then I explored tattoo medicine and I felt very called into like yantra and which is intuitive tattooing that they do in sorry, I have to pause. My digestive system is cramping, or something is in there cramping, which is really funny 'cause something came up last. Anyways, and so just exploring like different native and medicinal ways of tattooing. I explored like Mexican culture and Polynesian and Thailand and all these different and that created momentum in another direction. And then I stopped tattooing and I started doing soul sessions, and then I integrated like different medicines from these tribal practices that I had and rituals I had taken from and learned along the way, and ceremonies. And so it's just a little cookie crumb trail. Like one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. Like we're ever evolving. And just like business, just like the things you love. If you love to paint, sometimes you pick up acrylic, or as a child, you start with watercolors and then you pick up acrylic, and then maybe one day you pick up, what's the other one called? It's kind of like pastel. But then you just keep going and you expand and it grows, and that's just it. We're just here to ever be growing and expanding, and so nothing is just the way it is. Nothing is ever just the way it is, because change is the only constant. And it's crazy to actually even put that into perspective, because if change is the only constant, then anything that we deem to be just the way it is isn't true. That can't be true if change is the only constant in this world, because we're ever evolving and ever changing. But say in the way we do career, and you start in kindergarten, you work your way up to university, and then you get the PhD and you get the job, and then you find the house and you get the married and you get the kids, and people have followed that just the way it is. That's how it's supposed to be. That's the I did everything right route. And then they're not happy, or they don't get what they want, or they're not successful, or they're not abundant, or they don't feel fulfilled. And so that's just the way it is mentality is the limitation that we absolutely need to continue to bust through with full passionate for force. I don't, maybe not force, but just passion, inspiration. If it calls to you to burst through some ceilings of limitation that the world has implemented, go for it. This is me cheering you on, encouraging you in your corner. Friggin' go for it. And even if it makes no apparent sense and you have no idea what you're talking about, or you're just sitting here in your cozy little corner named Randy, rambling on to somebody that you hope will listen or not, you really don't care, because at the end of the day, you're doing this for you. That's what's up. Your creative expression is for you. your inspiration, what you want. Yes, it's also to be of service to the world, but find your joy in that, because that's really what matters at the end of the day, is how much it lights you up. And it's never just the way it is. You are allowed to change the narrative in which you live your life by. Mm. There's some beautiful little nuggets that we've explored and discovered throughout this conversation today. So thank you very much for being here. If you made it to the end, drop me a book emoji. Do we have a book emoji? If we got a book emoji for infinite knowledge, drop me a book emoji in the comments. Let me know that you made it to the end of this video. Give it a like, share, subscribe. If you have resonated with this, I super appreciate it. It also helps everyone else who needs to find this video get it, and let the algorithm carry it like a floaty in the ocean. Thank you. I appreciate you so freaking much. I love you all. I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. Until next time. Bye.